Okay. Bettye LaVette on Soul Sisters, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for asking me.
Of course.
I know what they're saying, son. There goes that old crazy broad again. Well, I may be mad at that, but I've seen it.
I have to acknowledge that the name of the show is Soul Sisters and kind of get into this with you for a second, because in many ways you embody what the name of our show suggests.
Well, thank you.
You are an ultimate soul singer, although I've read you have mixed feelings about that term for yourself and just the idea that you sing soul music and what soul music even is. Can you talk about that a little bit? Are you okay with it now?
No, I'm not okay with it now. It came after I did. Why should I get okay with it?
Yeah.
I think you need to get okay with the fact that I'm a rhythm and blues singer and Mariah Carey isn't. And that anyone who sings soulful is a soul singer.
Yeah.
I'm a rhythm and blues singer. And soul singer is my husband and I actually have argued about this a little bit because he's a record aficionado and I'm not. I'm just a rhythm and blues singer. But I know that when I first started singing, no one called me a soul singer. I've never referred to myself as that. And I've never heard of any of my contemporaries refer to themselves as that.
Yeah.
Now, however, when I'm traveling, say if I'm talking to someone who does not speak English, who's only heard about American music, and I'm trying to explain what I do, then I will say soul singer, and they say yes.
Okay, because it's a
shortcut. If I had said that before 1964, they still would have had the same question mark on their face because I just never heard anybody say it before that.
Can you give us an example of someone that is a soul singer to you?
Anyone who sings soulfully.
Okay.
Enrico Caruso.
Okay.
Anyone who sings soulfully with all their heart and soul.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's a classical singer, and I'm a rhythm and blues singer.
Right. Okay.
If you're going to pigeonhole people, put them in the right hole.
I agree with that. Okay, so I feel like we have a big challenge ahead of us right now, which is to tell the story of Bettye LaVette in 30 minutes, which is basically impossible. I mean, books will be written. Probably a movie will be made at some point. Definitely extensive articles have been written. But really, I mean, there's so much there. So we can't do it. I won't ask us to do that. But
well, the book is already out.
Oh, the book you wrote.
It's called A Woman Like Me.
That is true.
Yeah.
And there's probably not much left to write because you kind of spilled it all on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there will be no sequel. No.
That's true. I guess the way that I would like to try to get into this conversation with you is by framing it through what we kind of try to achieve on the show, which is talking to women in music who have inspiring stories to share based on how they broke into the business and how they carved their own way. And your story has inspiring lessons in it, and it has discouraging lessons in it, and it's kind of the full bag, right? But, you know, you're sitting here now. The name Bettye LaVette really means something. Your voice means a lot to a lot of people, and you have a new album coming out. So clearly at this point, we can look at your career and say it is inspiring. So I just kind of want to focus on the moments that maybe young aspiring musicians are looking for when they hear someone talk to you and try to figure out exactly how, at the end of the day, you made it all work, you know? Because you started out very young and you had some things going against you if you just look at your early biography.
Well, being very young was the biggest one.
Right, sure. Not
That's
just
the
young, but
biggest one.
Right, but also you got pregnant very young, you got married very young. For anyone, even now, those would be big barriers, especially in the 60s. That doesn't exactly foretell a big career that's about to happen for somebody.
And the way I did all three of them, they didn't foretell a big career.
Right. So how, I mean, can we just kind of dwell on those few years of your teenage life? And so you can help us understand how those kind of life milestones happened and you still were able to record your first record, a successful record at that?
The things that happened in the 60s happened so fast, especially in music.
Yeah.
I mean, I was pregnant and married and on the Atlantic record label all inside a year. So it wasn't
Crazy.
like there was a lifelong work going on any of it.
must have felt like a blink.
I shouldn't have been involved in anything that I was involved in, other than the 9th grade or the 10th grade.
Right.
But I think the first thing that I would say, not to young aspiring people, but because it seems now so easy with going on television and in 13 weeks you're on the front of Vogue or whatever, I think parents should know that there are no children in show business. I don't care if they started 10, 5, there are no children in show business.
Meaning that it steals your childhood from you?
Meaning that if you are going to, the people who are trying to force their children now to become these stars, that's exactly what you're going to get. You are not going to get a child back.
Do you feel like that happened to you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I wasn't even hanging with big stars. I was just hanging with grown, drunk people who danced and told jokes and sung and wore makeup and shiny suits and shoes. And I was 16 and I loved every one of them, the bad ones, the good ones, because I was 16.
Yeah. What were your parents
I was
thinking?
acting like them.
Okay. Were you rebelling? Like,
No.
What was your...
I've just always wanted to be grown.
Right.
Nobody's ever done anything.
But were your
my
parents
were
trying to
wonderful.
check you? Or?
No, my parents were, I was the first person in my family to ever make $100 in one day. And just as it was probably with Justin Bieber's mother, I mean,
right?
None of the rest of his 6th grade people who were making thousands of dollars a night.
Right.
And for most parents, as it was for Shirley Temple's mother and my mother and father, they weren't, and they admired these people as well, So it wasn't like I was hanging with a gang or something. I was hanging with people that they admired.
Yeah, these were musicians you were hanging with. Okay.
The local stars and whatever. And they'd heard them on the radio, and they were proud that I was with them.
Yeah. So how exactly did you fall into that group? How did you start singing professionally?
I started out as a groupie.
Okay.
But I was only a groupie for a week. I actually went for my first groupieing and met the people on the show. And
who were you a groupie for? Who was it?
No, it wasn't. It was just for anybody that was on the stage. It was just the people who went on the stage.
In Detroit?
Yes, but a professional groupie whose name was Bettye LaVette, no less. Okay. She introduced me to all of these people. One of them was a producer who introduced me to his producer. And at the end of the week, I was a singer. And it literally happened that fast. And at the end of the next week, I had a record on Atlantic.
That's
at the end of the next week, I had a record in the charts.
And what did you think?
I was as amazed as you are.
Yeah. You were 16 when that happened? Mm-hmm. So you had a baby who your mother was helping you raise?
My mother and my sister.
Okay. Yeah. And then did you have to go on the road? Were you touring?
Oh, I was waiting to go on the road. So I went on the road. This happened in August.
Okay.
My daughter was born in June. This happened in August. I went on the road in December.
Oh, my gosh. And were you basically on the road for the next decade?
No, for maybe the next year, because I didn't have a follow-up record, so everything started to slow down.
Got it.
And I almost immediately became, after becoming a national artist, I almost immediately became a local artist.
Yeah.
Which are two different things. So I learned how to do two things in like a year or so.
Right. And then what was your scene? Who were you hanging with then after that?
Oh, I was just going to the bars where the people who were advertised on the radio were performing.
Okay.
But treated with much greater respect because I had then been on the road with some huge stars. And albeit it only happened for a year, it hadn't happened to anybody else there.
Right.
So including all the people at Motown, save Smokey Robinson and Mary Wells. So, and probably Marv Johnson. But I had that year was quite something. It gave me enough panache to say, hey, New York is calling.
Right.
No.
Didn't call?
No. I misunderstood what I was hearing.
I mean, what were you thinking at the time? Because your voice was kind of right out of the gate this amazing thing that it is now, right? I mean, that voice and what people talk about now, that you have this very unusual break in your voice and that you emote in a way that's very distinct and unusual. You exhibited that at a very young age, right?
No, I exhibited some components of it.
Right. I'm sure it developed.
I didn't learn to emote until years later. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't learn to sing for 25 years after I started.
Oh, yeah?
To my satisfaction. But I sounded like a Minnie Mouse who sounded like James Brown. But my voice didn't sound light and mellifluous the way the Shirelles and the other girls who were singing did, so I didn't like my voice for a long while.
Because you thought they're having more success than me,
so I thought
that
if I
must be the
sounded more like
voice.
Doris Day, I'd be more successful.
Yeah. Did you try? Did you try to mimic that
No,
style?
I tried to. I thought if I learned the songs,
okay,
I would have to sing them that way, and that would just automatically elevate my voice to that.
Right.
So there was a lot of frustration for a lot of years, and just not using my voice correctly, and just being young and stupid. I injured my voice a lot, not permanently, but for the time being, because if I had a 3-night gig, I'd do the one night and everybody would applaud, which went immediately to my head. So the next night when I got there, I'd have on my little glad rags. I'd talk to everybody, then oversing. The next night, I
your voice was gone? Yep. Did you ever study?
Yes, after I'd been singing about 10 years, I learned that I'm never going to sing like Doris Day.
Okay.
And I learned the best thing to do with my voice and how to take care of it, and when to push, when not to push, keys to use, just what to do with it. And I had a guiding hand there in Jim Lewis, who was my first manager, telling me lots of things that I didn't listen to for a full 10 or 15 years.
Like what?
Shut up and go to bed.
Useful advice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell all young. What's the best thing you can tell me?
Yeah.
Shut up and go to bed.
Do you think you were born a musician, like it was going to happen no matter what?
No, but I think I was born an adult.
Okay.
So I was going to do something, if not illegal, nefarious. It was going to be something that wasn't like the rest of my 9th grade class.
What music were you into in the 60s when you were getting started?
I've always liked all music.
Okay.
My parents, before we came to Detroit, I was born in Muskegon, Michigan, and we had a jukebox in our living room. My parents sold corn liquor. And if you wanted a drink in 1946 in Muskegon, Michigan, you had to come to my house because you couldn't go to a bar, not if you were black. So that was where everybody after work was, and all the tunes were on the jukebox. My father was a gospel and blues aficionado. My mother was country western, gospel, and some of the contemporary stuff, and my sister was a teenager, so I had the contemporary stuff, and contemporary then meant Ray Charles, Little Esther. Well, Sam Cooke was still with the Soul Stirrers, but was soon to be a rhythm and blues singer. So I thought that they were all just singers. I didn't know that they were different kinds of singers. So I knew as many songs by blues singers as I did by Roy Rogers and Dale Evans and Red Foley. And they were just songs to me.
Right. When you started meeting some of those stars, like, you know, when you start meeting a James Brown or a Benny King or someone like that, was there any disillusionment, or were they what you imagined them to be?
Oh, no, they were what I imagined them to be because I was still a groupie. I just had a legal license to be with them then. Right. But I stood outside Clyde McFadden's. When I came off stage, I went directly to his dressing room door and just stood there until he came out.
Yeah, you were still a fan. Yeah. So you have an album of Bob Dylan covers coming out this month. What was your relationship with Dylan's music back then?
There wasn't any.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there really wasn't any. His music wasn't played on black radio. Everybody did Blowing in the Wind. And then knock on heaven's door, everybody black.
Right.
And I didn't see any room there for me to do his music until way later on. And then some of his songs I recorded before I did this album. I had done 3 other of his songs, strictly because the songs were funny and entertaining to me, but I never sat down and studied his music or thought of him as a great writer. I took everybody's word because the people who said he was a great writer, I admired. So
I feel like that's a relationship a lot of people have with Shakespeare. They like
there
acknowledge that he's the best, but they actually don't enjoy reading Shakespeare.
That was a perfect example.
I feel like you have that relationship with a lot of music that you are known for covering, that you didn't necessarily love it, but you have somehow still become this great interpreter of it. Like British invasion music.
Well, they're just words on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And if Mahalia Jackson sings them, they're gospel. If I sing them, they're rhythm and blues. If Led Zeppelin sings them, they're rock and roll. But it's the singer determines what kind of song it is. You know, certainly the songs that I did in, say, Scene of the Crime, like the Georgia Jones tune, certainly it was no longer country western when I sung it.
Right. How much thought goes into interpreting a song like that? Like, what actually is your process?
There isn't a process.
It's just doing it in your style?
It would be a process if I was trying to learn to talk or sing like the other person.
Right.
But it's not a great big process to sound exactly like myself.
Right.
And that always amazes me when people say, how do you make the song your own?
Yeah.
Because it's easier than trying to sound like Stevie Wonder.
Right.
I mean, I can just really sound like this naturally.
Yeah.
So there's no process. It's when the song comes out of my mouth, it sounds different because I'm somebody else.
Right. No, that's true. I guess people are surprised by the emotion that they feel hearing you sing a song that they've never experienced before.
Not the record. The thing that does it for you guys is the record.
Right.
But it's the song that does it for me. I could read the words and just feel the same way.
Yeah.
But because I can sing, I get a chance to act out what I feel.
Yeah.
But it's the words that make me feel one way or the other. I'm often frightened that I will hear a melody because I like melodies. And I believe that a song should be able to be hummed or whistled in the shower or whatever. So I'm afraid often when I hear a melody that I like, that the words won't make any sense. Because then I can't sing it, because I can't sing songs that don't make any sense.
Right. Have you written songs?
Very few.
Okay.
Very few.
So that's not a part of the process that inspires you.
I don't have any ideas. I just, because I'm bossy and pushy, I like to take your ideas and change them around.
It's worked. Did you ever really consider giving up music? Or did you always figure you would make it work somehow?
Every time. Can I say anything I want to say?
Anything.
Every time the sugar turns to shit,
yeah.
I quit. Then
like
if the phone rings like 30 minutes later, I'm back in it.
Yeah, but what does quit mean? Did you ever actually turn to another job?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't let it get to that.
Yeah.
I just poke my mouth out for a while and cry for several days.
Just announce you're done.
Yeah, well, like when my first album didn't come out for the second time,
right.
That's still, I can think about that now and conjure up tears. It hurt so bad, and it was so embarrassing.
Yeah,
but it added a lot of, when I sing those tunes from that album now, I'm just subject to breakdown, just thinking about how much it hurt me that it didn't come out.
Yeah, can you explain exactly what went on? And is it true we don't know why they never put it out?
Well, we know now. I didn't know that Ahmet Ertegun and Jerry Wexler had a parting of the ways.
Okay.
Jerry Wexler was kind of in my corner. Ahmet Ertegun was kind of in Aretha's corner.
Okay.
And I came out on the losing end because rock was, and the British invasion was coming on so fast.
So what year is this?
So Ahmet Ertegun actually had the winning hand over Jerry Wexler and the type of music that Jerry wanted to hear.
What year was this? Was
72.
So 72. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you find out the record's not coming out. They canceled the tour that you had planned for it, right? And then what did you do?
I got up under the dining room table with several gallons of wine and just stayed there.
Yeah.
Till the phone rang.
Because you thought that's it.
Yeah, well, every time I just thought that was it.
Yeah.
Year before last.
But somehow it always turns around on its own?
Well, now it's more likely to turn around because my name has reached more broader shores, so someone is liable to call from anywhere now. But then the people who knew me were so few, so everything looked so bleak. And there was always somebody, well, I have your record from 1962, and it's now 1964, and so I want to do this.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much happened about every 3 or 4 years, whether it became a national thing or whether indeed it even came out. Someone has asked me to record about every 3 or 4 years.
So what do you make of that?
Oh, I now take it as a badge of honor.
But do you take credit for that?
I've got to be the oldest person in show business with a new record contract.
There you go.
Other people have a record contract, but not a new one, not if they're 72.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So I'm really grateful, and I hearken here again back to Jim Lewis. He said, I don't know if I can't promise you that you'll ever be a star, but if you learn lots of songs and take care of your voice, you can sing the rest of your life.
Yeah. And are you able to feel grateful for that, or do you have to fight back still some resentment that it took so long to feel
I feel
comfortable?
Resentment about different things, but I'm very, very grateful, and I feel very, very privileged. But I know what I had to contribute to make it so. I mean, they didn't have to come and get me out of a car, sleeping on the streets, and I looked just like this when they finally called.
Right. I mean, did you have periods where you were watching like an Aretha or Diana Ross kind of ascent?
And I could see them real close because I was in Detroit.
Right. And were you scratching your head? Like, were you confused why they were having that kind of luck?
No. Or because I knew everything I needed. I just couldn't understand why I couldn't get it. But it isn't... you don't think after a while, well, I can sing better than them, or well, I don't see why. I need distribution. I need a big record company. I need some money, and that's the way I looked at it, period. I just need somebody to sing. It's not even a matter of who does it best.
Right. It's just pragmatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true. All right. So let's look at like the last, 10, 13 years that have kind of been this latest
Yeah.
Right.
It's been working. This is the first one of the 5 that's worked.
Yeah. I mean, what is it? It's like, so you put out I Got My Own Hell to Raise, which critics loved. People loved it, right? Very well received, but maybe your reputation still wasn't as wide as it should have been.
The one that actually started this was A Woman Like Me, which I won a Blues Music Award for.
Okay.
So that was really how this 5th career started.
Yeah.
Hell to Raise, actually, to be frank with you.
Yeah. I would expect nothing less.
The record company forgot to submit it.
Oh, for Grammys, right?
And I was so grateful.
Did you punch a wall over that one? Or what did you do?
Bonnie Raitt called them. She did everything she could, yes, to try and get them to either re-vote or look at it again or something. I mean, we're still devastated about it when we talk about it.
Yeah. Do you have a relationship with Bonnie? Or she's a fan of yours? Or?
She has been a very good friend and a great, great supporter.
Yeah.
She was instrumental in my getting the R&B award. And in fact, the first time that I went there, she had insisted that they invite me, and I went to give award posthumously to Jackie Wilson. That was the very first time I had even been invited to them. But she has been a great, great champion.
Yeah. So the first album came out when? Early 2000s? Yeah.
2003.
Got it. Okay.
Is he good or
so
what?
Good. He did my homework for me.
Delta Rays was 2005.
And 5. I got that. And then Kennedy Center Honors is 2008. And that seemed to have really been, oddly, the real game changer of this latest chapter.
As I said, I need for lots of people to see me at one time.
Right.
I would have done that same show for $50 a night somewhere else, but only 20 people would have seen it.
Yeah.
So I didn't get good for the Kennedy Center Honors. More people saw it.
Yeah, and that was it. Now, you guys reached out to them about you performing for that, right? Yeah. Because George Jones was being honored?
Yeah, and I had just done the album with the George Jones tune on it, but
Okay.
so many people were coming to honor him.
Right.
He said the only song that's left is this song by The Who, and I said, the what?
Yeah. Which isn't necessarily a more logical fit for you, but you made it work.
But I just separated it again from the recording,
Right.
and took the lyrics and tried to comprise my thing around the words. And I asked the music director, can I please just sing this to you? I just sung it to him a cappella, and
Yeah.
he started to play. And then he told the rest of them, just lay out for a moment until he developed what he wanted to put around it. And then Rob Mathis, he went on to be my co-producer on Interpretations. And it was the same thing again. I mean, I had never heard these songs, and the people I was recording with had heard of them all their lives. So to try and get them to forget something like Nights in White Satin, just forget how that goes. Read the notes and listen to where I'm going. And that's more than a notion. It's more difficult to unlearn than it is to learn.
That's true. That's true. So when you performed at the Kennedy Center, did you feel that something was different immediately after? Could you feel the impact of having been
I
seen by
felt
that
it
many
before.
people?
I knew what was getting ready to happen.
You knew it.
I'd seen every Kennedy Center honor that they had.
Yeah.
And I knew it took no rehearsal in my mind, no preparation. All I wanted them to do was tell me I could come and sing. And it was, I call it my Three Stooges slap. Barbra Streisand was sitting here, Aretha was sitting here, and Beyonce was sitting here.
Were you looking at them when you performed?
No.
Okay. Just look straight ahead.
Well, I just at everybody. I tend to
got it.
look at. My manager used to walk the audience because he knew I was going to be looking at him.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to move out of that spot unless he moved. So he'd walk all over the audience, and I'd walk the stage trying to find him till it became habit.
Right.
It was very much like him working with a cute little puppy.
Yeah. So when you give a performance like that, though, when the biggest stars in the world are in the room and you slay them because you did, can you feel it?
Well, I know what I'm doing at all times.
Yeah.
You know,
but can you
I
feel
know
it in the room?
I
Or you're like, I got
the
'em.
audience was just like any other audience, so
Okay.
I feel whatever I felt.
Okay.
But in terms of those people,
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing, and I knew what they were hearing.
Okay.
And I knew that they weren't prepared to hear what
Yeah.
they were going to hear because Aretha and, well, Beyonce had never seen me. Aretha hadn't seen me perform in maybe 40 years.
Oh my gosh.
Barbra Streisand, as she kept saying to Pete Townsend, who is that? And so that was a great moment for me.
Yeah, I imagine. I also bet you have a name that a lot of people know. It's like Bettye LaVette, yeah, and then they're like, "How do I know her?" And then
Well,
they have a
often
moment of
for many
connecting
years
the music to
got
the
it
name.
confused with Betty Everett because her
Okay.
records were bigger.
Yeah.
And so they would immediately go to that. And then with Patti LaBelle with the La, it would always get
Right.
discombobulated in those names, you know.
Right.
But I figured at some point they let me have one of my own.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so the new album comes out at the end of this month. Why did you choose Dylan, aside from people just telling you that you should?
My executive producer, Carol Friedman, who started out as an acquaintance, became a friend,
Yeah.
then became my photographer for the last two albums, and is a great Bob Dylan fan and a great Bettye LaVette fan. And she had just wanted to see these two things together.
Okay.
And she had the wherewithal to hustle around and find somebody to buy the idea.
Yeah.
It just happened to be the biggest company in the world.
There you go. That doesn't hurt.
Not at all. I'm extremely excited.
It's great. What was I going to ask? Oh, so just about this album, I kind of want to ask you, just to kind of wrap up here. I know you're a big political person these days. You like to watch MSNBC, I read. That's your jam.
Yeah.
And hearing you sing Dylan songs, you do add a kind of urgency to his lyrics, which can already be very political, and you make it feel very relevant again. I was just wondering if you felt that recording his songs, that
no, actually, after going back and looking at it, I realized how pertinent it was to what's going on today. What you were asking me earlier about the preparation and whatever, this actually, usually I find the song I like. I rarely learn them because I've had so many things recorded and never released. So I don't just have no whole bunch of words going around in my head for no reason.
Right.
If you ain't going to put it out, I ain't going to learn it.
Yeah.
But I learn the melody so I can put the words on top of it.
Okay.
This one, I had to work on a long time because I had to change personalities and I had to actually change what had happened to somebody that just won a Nobel Peace Prize for writing. I had to put his words in my mouth, and that was really difficult because he mostly doesn't say things I would say. So I had to take what he said and say it the way I would say it. And I had every time and then he has all these words too. So, there was one song I think I took about 3 or 4 verses out of, and there's still 4 verses left. But what he does, he has his ongoing argument or complaint. And then he says, well, like, and then another thing, and let me say it this way. And I'm like, get the best way to say it.
And go with that.
And go with that.
Yeah.
So I went through all the songs, picked the best way out to get to the point.
Yeah.
But when you move one of his verses, they're almost like building blocks. When you move one of them, then you have to put them back together because you can't just connect one to the other. So it really I spent more time on this than I've ever spent on anything because I too wanted it to sound as natural coming out of my mouth as my man or something that was written for me.
Right. And you feel like you did it?
Oh, yeah. I'm
Good.
very, very satisfied with it.
Nice.
Very satisfied with it. And then I had to understand what he meant so I could say what I meant about it.
Yeah, that's right.
And, he speaks a lot in metaphors. So everywhere he does that, I just say exactly what he meant.
Yeah.
Which causes you to cuss a lot.
Right. Are politics making you cuss a lot these days?
Everybody's trying to get me to not take it so personally and just remain calm.
It's hard, right?
But
it is personal. It is personal.
It is personal. It really, really is. I'm not pleased at all. I don't think that this is the way. I used to say like they ought to take because people were coming so fast to this country. My manager and I used to joke and say they should take the Statue of Liberty and tip it over so that it would be pointing like this. But that is what this country is based upon.
Yeah.
And I've never seen it so blatantly attacked. I mean, to attack it with a joke here and there is one thing, but to see it physically attacked the way it is now is scary, and certainly it's scary for me as a black person. I don't know how many crazy people this crazy movement can get together. Supposing it gets crazy as it did when they decided we would have a civil war. Of course, you have to remember that when they decided to do that before, everybody had a gun at home. Right. But it did no good against the United States of America, and I don't think it'll do any good against the United States of America now.
Right.
I think we'll have the same result, and they'll have to start all over again.
Yeah. Do you get involved? Do you, like, as an activist? Do you go to marches?
Well, I don't now, but I did whenever. My goodness, I was the first black in Michigan, and one of the first blacks remaining in the original Ross Perot movement.
Oh my gosh.
I sung the national anthem at all of the little rallies and whatever. That is as involved as I've ever become.
Okay. Would you do that again?
My manager was worked for EDS, which was owned by Ross Perot. So I got a chance to hear a lot of his speeches even before he spoke publicly.
Okay.
And I fell in love with what he was saying to the EDS workers, and I liked the work ethic and what he thought about American companies and whatever. So that's how I got it. I really didn't get involved because of a political thing at first.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that again.
No?
No. No.
Okay, fair enough.
I'd encourage someone else to do it.
Yeah. Well, the world needs music like yours, so that's your contribution at the very least.
I'll sing as they march.
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. That's amazing. All right. So the album is called Things Have Changed, out on March 30th. You're going to be playing some shows around a little bit on the road?
Yeah, we'll be doing the introduction of the album at the City Winery in Manhattan. And for the first month or so, I'll be doing the entire album straight down from top to bottom.
Oh, nice. Any other stuff thrown in or just the album?
Not right away.
Okay.
Then I'll start to pick the album apart and incorporate it into the already existing show. But I'd like to see how these tunes are going to work, which one is strongest, which one comes out live stronger, and then add them to the show.
That's the pragmatic Bettye LaVette. There you go. Just figure out the formula. Figure out what works. Go after it. Yeah. All right, Bettye, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Jesse, thank you for having me, baby. And good luck to you with the show.
Thank you.